Okay. We will look for our other one now, which is the HD audio. Looking for the HD audio, we'll see that it's right back here in the corner, hiding. And we'll go ahead and line that one up the only way that it'll go with the missing pin. Alright. Alright, with all of our front panel cables already connected now we'll just simply work in our other connections. We actually have now all our power supply cables running underneath these cables. So to make it look neat at the end, we'll go ahead and untangle these. Get all these back up out of the way. And once we're done with all this, we will tie all these cables up so that they look neater. Okay. The next two things we'll need to run to the motherboard, the only other two things we'll need to run to the motherboard actually, are our hard drive. If you have an SSD drive, you'd want to plug that up to your motherboard as well. And then our CD-ROM. So we'll go ahead and get those two SATA cables out of the package. All right. Go ahead and straighten them out. Okay, if you look, this first SATA cable goes up to the CD drive, and there's two connections on it. It's hard to see here in the dark, it's hard to get the camera up here, but you have a bigger power supply connection, and then your SATA connection is going to only go on one way. It is shaped like an L shape. If you look at these connections, it's shaped like an L shape. So again, this stuff only goes on one way. This stuff is not that complicated. You just basically look for one connection, and right here on this hard drive, that L connection is right there in front of my finger. So put that on that, and it should just snap right on. Then those will go to the same kind of connection on the other end on our motherboard, and you'll see here that you have SATA 5, SATA 6, SATA 3, SATA 3G. All the way down here, these are all SATA connections. And it doesn't really matter which one you put where, but I usually like to go and put them I usually like to line those up so they go 1, 2, 3, 4. Even though your motherboard doesn't really care. Oops. Plug that one into the wrong one. Okay. So now we have hard drive and DVD burner plugged into our motherboard. All we need to do is give those two components power, and for that we will look for those power connectors coming from our power supply. Okay. These power cables coming from your power supply, like I said, they're wider than the motherboard connections, but again, they're shaped just like a nail, just like that, and they're going to only go onto this hard drive and your other components one way. So, all right, sorry guys, I don't have a better view of this for you to see, but kind of hard to get the camera and show you exactly what I'm doing here. This one here might be a little bit easier to see. Alright, so this one here, we're going to look and see where the L-shaped is. You see the L-shape going like that. That should be aligned with how the L-shape is down here, right underneath the motherboard SATA connector. Now you can't see for the wire, but you'll line it up and then you'll just push it on. Make sure it's tight, and that's how it connects. Okay. Now, with everything plugged up here, we are completely ready to go. We have everything plugged up except for the video card now, but you will see here that we got a huge mess. This particular video card that we're actually using does not have any cables or anything like that needed. It's simply going to plug into our PCI Express slot, so we can go ahead and try to work these cables into a more manageable, out of the way, so they look better as well. Right now we don't want to leave them like that. I mean, they'd be hitting the fans. You know, you don't just want to throw them all up in there. You want to try to get them out of the way best you can. Okay, now that looks a little bit better. With all the cords tied up, and I just stuffed them back in an open space between the CD player and the hard drive. Put some ties on these cords that were dangling here just to get them out of the way. Now that looks a whole lot better and gives your motherboard and all the components room to breathe and let air flow through. Now we'll want to go ahead and put in our video card. This motherboard only has one PCI Express slot here. It'll line up here with this particular metal piece here. You'll go ahead and to get those out, you just unscrew that. There's a screw right here. Sometimes they'll actually pop out, and you just push them from the outside and they'll pop out. Whatever you need to do to get it out. And we'll go ahead and put that in next. Alright. We're going to go ahead and open up our video card here. You'll see we got a nice sticker for our case again, and drivers, and a manual on a CD. And we'll usually just go ahead and get those drivers right from the website. Instructions, more instructions, garbage, and somewhere in here we should find our video card. And they give you a couple more of these if you ever need those. Those are a good thing to keep in case you ever need them. Again, electrostatic discharge bag, because there are ESD sensitive parts. Try to hold your motherboard on the outer edges. Make sure you touch your frame of your computer to ground yourself out so that you have a neutral ground. We're going to go ahead and put this thing into that PCI Express slot right down there. We're going to need to go ahead and remove this particular piece of metal first. So we'll go ahead and do that. Once you get that screw out, some of these don't have screws, some of them just pop out. And again, you'll pop those out pushing on them from the outside. I put a screw in this one because if you ever decide to go without a video card, or you have a motherboard, maybe you replace the motherboard with internal graphics, you might want to replace that. Making this one very hard to get in. There we go. Wow, usually isn't that hard. All right, this one was kind of a hard snapping thing with this case. Another reason I don't really like cheap cases, but we were going for on a budget here, and the card is actually inserted now, and you'll see that it's a little bit loose. To make sure that it doesn't go anywhere, you'll just want to go ahead and make sure you put that screw that you took out back inside their hole. Alright guys, we've got basically just our power connector going to our power supply here. You want to make sure that your switch, if you have one, is selected to the right voltage for your country. In this case, we're in the United States, going to make sure it's not 115, not 220. We have USB cables for our mouse and keyboard. And then we've got an HDMI connector running to our monitor, connected to the video card. And you'll notice that we've already got one little green light going on because we got that power going on. And this is the reason you want to go ahead and leave everything connected. This is the reason you'll want to make sure you leave your side panel off, so when you fire it up you can see what's going on inside. Make sure there's no problems. So with that, let's go ahead and hit the power switch here and make sure we get a boot. We don't have an operating system or anything loaded on it yet, so we should just get a motherboard. We check here, we see that our fan there is running. We did forget to go ahead and plug in our case fan. We'll need to plug that in. And down here, video card fan is running. You can see that. And we do not yet have a screen. All right.